is we record these so we can post them up on our website, and then we'll get started talking about woo. Our strengths convo today is on the strength of woo, and I'm lucky because I have woo, so it's fun for me to talk about. And so we'll just go ahead and get started. We always start these with just a little description of what woo is to us, and you know, for those of you that haven't dug into it before, it's winning others over. That's the acronym it stands for. And I love the way Gallup chose this as a strength, because I think it combines with all these other strengths so well. And so what happens for these is that we invite everybody on campus who has woo on their profile. So I sent an email out to 297 different Augustana people, whether it's faculty or staff. And everybody gets invited. So, hey, Wendy, nice to see you.
Hi, friends.
Hey, I didn't know what to expect when we said we're going to talk to woos. I couldn't decide if we were going to get like 297 people that are all like, yeah, let's go talk about ourselves.
I did think you would get a lot for woo.
Yeah, you know, I'll be honest. Today Wednesday is a tough day. None of the faculty are going to come. They're in the middle of a pretty good meeting, so we and I got a number of emails from people that were like, I really want to, and even Tatiana, thank you for emailing me saying you're looking forward to it. You kind of gave me the response that I was hoping for. It's like, I love woo. I'm totally gonna be there.
I love talking about woo. It's fun.
Yeah. So we're just gonna go round table. We have set up a couple of questions, but nothing solid. And so I thought we'd start with maybe just opening up a real good question, or an open question, which is, does anybody have anything about woo that they're curious about and want to talk about? And with that being open, I'll just leave that out there as something that everybody can talk about. I thought the other thing that I would say is, and I have one, so I can go first, a story about when they knew they were in their woo moment, right? Like when they were living their woo and they felt their woo. And I'll just tell you this story. I was invited to New York on Long Island. My dad and his partner at the time, Cliff, were having a big party. They were celebrating 20 years of being together. They were also celebrating, like, I think it was my dad's 60th birthday party, and at that time Cliff was turning 50 or something like that. So it was a big party celebration at their place in Long Island, and I was just a guest, and I just decided that it was time for me to go and meet all of their friends, and they had invited maybe 200 people from the city and from Long Island and Bellport where they were living. And I just got into the zone, man. I thought I was going to meet everybody, and you know, it was a great time because they all wanted to meet me, you know, his son. So it was kind of a fun opportunity to dig into that. But I absolutely remember being in like the woo moment and feeling like I was in the zone of, I'm meeting everybody. I was remembering everybody's name. So I'd be like, hey, Joe, hey, George, hey, what's up, Mary, what's up? You know, and they were all like, God, they even went up to my dad afterwards and said, man, your son, he's so energetic and so engaging, and he's just willing to talk to anybody and everybody. And that's my story. I could just feel it, you know, I didn't know what to call it at the time, but now I certainly know what it was.
That does bring up a question for me though, Jeff. Do you feel like woo is kind of hand in hand with being extroverted, or can there be like an introverted woo also?
Yeah, what I think I don't think you have to be an extrovert to be a woo. What I do think is, I think woo complements your other strengths. And I think it works hand in hand with whatever other strengths that you have. You know, for example, myself, I'm a relator and connectedness and includer. So I have 3 relationship building strengths. Woo on the one side isn't a relationship building strength, it's an influencing strength. So it's not about building relationships with people, it's about influencing other people. So, but it complements all of my relationship building strengths so well. I use woo to build relationships with people. I get energy from those moments. I get energy on move-in day. I get energy on parent day. I get energy on new student registration day. But they also exhaust me a little bit. Versus other people, they get that energy from it, and then that keeps them going. And so I don't think you have to be an extrovert. What about everybody else? I mean, anybody here feel like they're an introvert and still have woo? Or is everybody here feeling extroverty?
I would definitely say that I'm probably an extrovert. And I agree with you on getting like the excitement from like when I'm in my WW workshops, you know, having that connection with the other people and, you know, making the connections with everybody else in the workshop. But then usually by the time I'm done, I'm spent.
Yeah.
So it's like I want to go home and I have no energy left.
Yeah.
I've talked about that a lot with like my coworkers, because in the IT department, woo is very unusual. And Dan's like, I don't think I've ever hired anyone with woo before. And so, but it works well in the position that I am in, because it kind of goes along with my communication strength. And so when I'm like communicating with people, I can see how that would be influencing them too. But yeah, I don't know. I've talked about during this whole like, you know, isolation period that Zoom is nice to like be able to see people and things, but I have just been feeling like really not energetic, even though I've been trying to connect with people technology wise. So I've been warning people that I work with. I'm like, okay, when we get back to the office, I hope it's appropriate to be like a little huggy or something, because I am going to be like so talkative and just like, I missed you guys so much. And they're going to be, you know, over it. But they've been checking in on me. So that's nice too.
Well, I think that's, you know, that's actually a good question. Does anybody do anything during this kind of quarantine time that energizes and exercises their woo? Have you changed any of your strategies or connected? Because I think woos do go through a little bit of like, I need more people. I can offer my advice to that moment, and it's something that I did early when lockdown was coming, is I honestly set up a little graph and a little schedule of people I'm going to connect with intentionally. And that was coworkers. And, you know, I call a different coworker every day when I'm out on a walk, and I just want to connect with them. And it's not about work, and it's not about those things. It's about trying to build a connection to people. I did the same thing with my family. It's like I have a schedule. Here are the people I'm going to call on a regular basis, because I need that connection to them. I'm not sure if that's relator or woo though. Like those things are really mingled together for me. What about you, Wendy? What are you doing? You're meeting new students all the time. I suppose you're just energized up.
So I feel like woo is like the best strength to have as an admission counselor, but also it really like, I need to disconnect it from like, when students don't choose Augustana, it's not because I couldn't win them over. It's because Augustana wasn't the right fit for them. And so it's like, I have so many students that I build such great relationships with that just in the end do not choose to come to Augustana, whether it's for cost or whether it's for proximity to home, like so many other outside factors that like, I feel like the woo strength in me for a little bit is just like kind of bummed, because I feel like it's intrinsic versus extrinsic. But I like that was even my partner Kyle, he will, and especially working from home, so he got to see all the heartbreaks like happen right in front of him, basically, when kids were telling me that they weren't coming. And he'd be like, it's not that you couldn't win them over. It's like Augustana is not the right fit for them. Like it'll be, and I'm like, yeah, you're right. So I feel like this year, like I've been able to, because he can help me point that out, that I'm just like, okay, like you're right. But like it still stings just a little bit. But
I'm
yeah.
so glad that you said that, because I feel the same way with my Weight Watchers, and when members leave, I mean, it's like I take it personally of why didn't they stay? So now I kind of feel better that somebody else feels that way too. So, because I'm always thinking, oh my gosh, what did I do wrong? How come they didn't stay? And so now I feel better. Thank you.
That must be one of the weaknesses of the woo, because it's like I do take it personally. Like I'm not good with constructive criticism because I just take it personally. Or when I can tell someone does not like me or for some reason, I like will bend over backwards to try to win them over, even though it might just be the way it is.
That's funny
Yep.
because Brent, you and I were speaking about this. Like the person who just gives you, and to me, I don't know if I need them to like me, but I need feedback from them. And I can get it off of eye contact and a smile, right? Like I don't need too much affirmation, but when there are people that are just cold, like I'm just like, what could I do to break that ice, you know? And there are, you know, it's really harsh when there are coworkers or people that you interact with on a regular basis that are just like zero feedback. You know, you're how have you dealt with that? Wendy, how do you deal with it when you get the rejection? Do you know, have you learned to compartmentalize that? Or Jody, have you learned where to put that and how to recover from that?
I just have to continue to remind myself that perhaps they're not at the time in their life to have that work for them, because I could like talk somebody into continuing on with Weight Watchers, but if they're not truly in it, it's not going to be a benefit for them. And I wouldn't want it to be a bad situation feeling for them. So I just have to tell myself I'm still going to be helpful whenever I can, but perhaps now is not the time for them. Just like perhaps Augustana is not the right place for them.
And yeah, prior to working at Augustana, for me, I worked in psychiatric residential treatment. So it was a very therapeutic setting with delinquent youth. They were between the ages of 11 to 17. And we talked a lot about actual reality versus perceived reality, and how, so like I really like try to go back there, and like the conversations that I would have with the kids, I'm like, okay, how are you perceiving this, and what's the actual like reasoning behind it? So yeah, I feel like I've gotten a lot better with that too. Just like I'm not the reason that everything in this world happens the way that it does, and just like accepting that fact has really been, I think, what's helped me with the I shouldn't even call it rejection, but with students
Is part of
making
it just
decisions.
is part of it, Wendy, just a little bit of, I mean, does your woo get excited because they made a choice? And if they didn't choose Augustana because that's what you're selling, that's one thing. But do you get to turn around and be excited for them because they made a choice? Like, that's awesome. Congratulations. It would have been better had you come to Augie, because that's what I want you to do. But I'm excited that you chose to go here, because I think that's a great opportunity for you. And I think you're going to thrive there. And you kind of
For
still get
sure.
to end on a woo moment with them.
Yeah, for sure. And I just had, so last week I had probably the biggest heartbreak I've ever had in my time working at Augustana. And one of my students told me that he was choosing to go somewhere else, like an incredible school. And and him and I got to be super close. Like I feel like we'll still be in touch even though he's not coming to Augustana. But and him just telling me, and and even I have to separate that in the process too, because I know he really wanted to come to Augustana because he didn't want to disappoint me, because that's how close we do get to be with our students. And so
Right.
I like had to call him, I think it was a few days before he made his final decision. And I said, like, I need you to take me out of the situation. I said, like, I know, like, you really value my opinion and you don't want to disappoint me, but I cannot be the only reason that you choose to come to Augustana. And like, as much as it like would kill me to see Augustana lose a student like you who could impact it in the way that I know you will, like, it's so much more than that, and you need to do what's best for you. Like, this is your decision. And so then when he called me and told me he wasn't coming, I was literally like, I was telling him how happy I was for him, because I am so happy and excited for him, but I was like, I had tears just streaming down my face. That was one of the few times I've cried when I lost a student, but tears just streaming down my face because I was like so sad for Augustana that he won't be on our campus next year. But yeah, I don't know, it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's hard to separate yourselves, like both of you, how you describe it, from like the product, the thing that you're selling, like, because you're so invested in it too.
Yeah.
When you see the benefit of something and your only reason is you want to help that other person receive the benefit from Augustana, Weight Watchers, whatever it is, it's hard when they don't want to pick it up and take it for themselves, because you know the benefit of it and you like them so much, you respect them enough to really want them to benefit from it.
That's
Good way to
completely
say it.
it.
It's a good way to say it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard too, because you probably don't see, like, you had an influence, but you don't necessarily get to see that influence.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things I like to do in all of our chats, though, is to talk about how do we make our woo stronger, right? Like, how do we grow? Because, and woos are like, I'm naturally gifted at this. So they're a little bit like, how do I do that? But I think there is opportunity to grow our strengths and to actually take them and aim them at something and to make it a really powerful talent that we have. Does anybody know of anything that they think of where they go out and they exercise it and they're like, here's how I get better at it? I mean, I can tell a story, and there's a couple of them that I know of. Is one, where do we get to go and volunteer so that we can be around new environments and new strangers that are out of what we normally do? Wendy goes out and sells Augustana on a regular basis, but where does she get to exercise not selling Augustana, but exercise meeting people? And
I'm involved in a college mentoring ministry at my church. And so, I mean, it's not meeting a lot of people, but I enjoy mentoring. And so I meet one-on-one with a college student from USF. But that's been good for me. It's a little bit outside of what I normally do. And but I have to be careful. And I was thinking, you guys sell different products, but I was thinking in terms of parenting. Like, all of my kids are adults now, and I have to be careful not to use my woo too much. You know what I mean? Like, I tend to be a little bit of I don't know, controlling maybe, but to not influence them too much, but to express my opinion and then let them decide on things. And I kind of feel that way sometimes in my mentoring too, that because they're looking up to me and respect what I have to say, I don't want to unduly influence them either. I don't know. So it's not just, is it necessarily about just meeting people, but it's about influencing them as well, I think, and that comes a little bit naturally.
I was in a really fun exercise with a coach that I work with, where he asked if I could start to articulate my role in the moment. And Christy, that might be helpful. Like, my mentorship role with you says this, my coach role says to do this, my counselor role says to do this. Those aren't the same things, right? Like, and if you ask for advice, let me step out of coaching, because coaching is getting you to make good decisions. But I can step into advising if that's what you want. But trying to articulate that role in the moment might be helpful there.
That's a good idea.
Tatiana, you've been a little quiet, so I'm gonna get you to jump in here. I want to hear, what do you do to aim and to work on your woo?
Nothing necessarily, but I have my nonprofit, so sometimes we have networking events, so then I get to go out and talk. I don't necessarily like a project to sell, but it's kind of like selling myself and my nonprofit, like kind of making partnerships. So it's a good way to just go out and
that sounds
meet
like a
people
product
and
to
then
me.
raise awareness.
That sounds like a product to me.
It's more of a product the more I started talking about it.
So one of the other things that I'll just give you all some advice on working your woo is asking for feedback from others about your pitch. When was the last time you recorded yourself doing something to see how it's playing? Because in your head, you're like, I'm playing this out. I'm swinging and hitting everything. But you get some feedback later and you're like, oof, yeah, that didn't come across well. That's one really good strategy of practicing your woo, is to record yourself in the moment, or to ask for somebody to observe and give you feedback. You know, Wendy, you're out doing projects, or Tatiana, you're out selling your nonprofit, or you're out, you know, Jody, doing your Weight Watchers, or Christy out with your church. When did you ask somebody to give you feedback on what you did and how it worked and how it came across? And not the person that you're trying to woo, but an outside observer, somebody who could sit back and say, okay, Wendy, I thought you did great, but did you notice XYZ? And you can be like, oh, that's good to note. I need to be more observant of this moment.
And I do have a good relationship with my guide. So, you know, we can have a conversation after the workshop and say, okay, you know, what do I need to do differently? And she's good. And I, if you ask for feedback, you also have to take a deep breath when it's given.
And you need to build a relationship with somebody that you can trust. Christy earlier said, you know, I don't like negative feedback. And so you have to be prepared for getting it. But part of our growth and exercising our woo is to say, because of your feedback, I'm going to be so much better. And you just need somebody that you trust, right? And you give them permission to give you that feedback, and because you want to get better at it. Wendy wants to sell Augustana better, I'm sure, right? So asking Maddie or Max or any of your colleagues to say, can you listen in on this call for me? I'm trying to get some feedback on how my performance is, and could I have done it differently or better?
And we do things like that, like in the summer, or last summer we did anyways. It's hard to do it during the school year because we're all doing a million different things on a million different schedules. But like, regardless of how long we've been there, we sit in on each other's visits when a student comes to campus, because I do things very different than Thomas does, but like he uses like one line in a student visit earlier than I do, and that kind of sets the tone for the rest of the visit. And so then it's like you learn things that other people do that you haven't been doing, and then they can also provide you with, like, I could then provide Thomas with feedback on maybe something I would do a little differently. So we tried to create a culture where radical candor is accepted. And so I appreciate that about my office for sure.
Yeah. Well, that would be my advice, is look for feedback on your woo. Look for, you know, notice when you're in it, and then look for feedback from people that you trust, and give them permission to be honest with you, Christy, and give them permission to tell you where you could grow. And, you know, whether it's the line that you use, Wendy, or it's just a tone that you set, or maybe it's body language that you're unaware of. And, you know, there's so many forms of communication that we could hone, and woos like to get it all right, because then they get that feedback. One thing that I'll say that I also did that I think is brave, that, and I don't say that to toot my horn, but we talked about the people that you don't connect with, that aren't giving you the feedback and aren't giving you that. I had to go up and ask why. It was get to the point where I was just like, why can I not get you to smile? Like, I just need contact, and I just need to affirm that I'm okay. So it's okay to go there too, I think. And it worked. It ended up great. She was like, I didn't realize I was doing that. And I'm like, okay, well then good. Then it's not me, it's you. And I'm okay with that. It's not you, it's me. No, it really is you. The other things that I'll just throw out for everybody is find yourself positions to be the woo and to turn it on, you know, whether that's volunteering for something totally different, or volunteer to be like, you know, you guys are meeting the first year students this year, and even though I'm not a Viking guide, can I come and work the parents table or the parents booth? Because I'll get to meet everybody that way. Or I know today is the day that we're having an orientation for new students. And I know I don't have a role with new student registration or new student orientation, but I'd happily come and hand out name tags, or I'd happily come and do that kind of stuff that doesn't take any skill set or training in advance. It takes show up 10 minutes early and know the alphabet, you know, but you get to turn on the woo and smile at people and just, and I would suggest that has worked. And then the other thing that I did is earlier this year with my team, since I have been feeling more and more disconnected from students, is I asked my team of people to find opportunities for me to connect, whether it's just coming and talking at the beginning of a meeting to just say welcome, or to impress people as they're important, or to do these kinds of moments where it's strengths conversations and let me go out and meet new students and new people just through talking about something that I like talking about.
I do appreciate, I was going to say, I do appreciate that, because coming from the advancement office to the IT, I used to work events, and I used to love that because I would love meeting people. And so, yes, if the admissions office wants me to, I've been doing some like parent things, you know, but sign me up.
Awesome. Good to know, because we're shorthanded now. So
yeah.
I think another thing woos are naturally good at are affirming people. So if you naturally take on that role within your department or within your friend group, like recognizing that, but then I think also you might want that too in return. As humans, it's evident if we're doing something, we want that reflected. So I think just being open and honest and communicating that with others too, that by affirming people, you also want affirmations for the things you do as well.
I'm a huge words of affirmation person. Huge.
Are you the Stuart Smalley? You look into the mirror and gosh darn it, people like you. Okay. Anybody else have anything they want to add? We're at our 30 minutes. And so we're going to come back and revisit woo here again. Anybody feel like they're missing something? One last chance to woo the 6 of us over?
I was just going to say, you know, sometimes me personally, I get frustrated because I see other skills and talents that others have. And it's like, oh my gosh, why don't I have that? But then I have to think, okay, there's a lot of people who couldn't just walk up to somebody and start talking to them. And to me, that's not a difficult thing to do. So I have to turn it around on myself and say, okay, I have skills that others don't have. And so if we can work together, then it's good. So just don't get down on yourself for skills that you think you should have when it's just not wired in you.
That is the beauty of StrengthsFinder right there. That is, in a nutshell, and we're all successful and we all get to achieve success. And we just have to learn to hone our talents and our strengths and remind ourselves that we're special in that way, and that, you know, other people are special in significance, and they're better at that than I am, or they're better at focus than I am. Everybody's better at focus than I am. I chase the squirrel all the time. So, well done. Well said. Okay. Well, thanks everybody. Thanks for coming. Next week, we're talking Achiever.
right?
We're doing Achiever next week. So next Wednesday at 3:30, you can come on and follow our link. It's in A-mail. Even if you don't have Achiever, but you want to work with Achievers, which, by the way, 37% of Augustana has Achievers. So that's, you definitely are working with Achievers. Wendy, 37% of our student body is Achievers. So if you want to talk about getting to know incoming students, learning how to work with Achievers might be valuable.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So next week we'll do Achiever. The link will be in A-mail, and we'll see you all then. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for doing
Thanks,
this.
Thank
Jeff.
you.
This is fun.